$100. We have 1 hour left. Just 1 hour, folks. Like I said earlier, at the end of any big race, you will see that everybody who is coming in, whether that's a marathon, the 3,200, the 1,600, a 5K, whatever it is, they finish strong at the last. Let's do that. How much can we raise in this last 60 minutes? We still have some matching funds left. Please call 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. In just 1 hour, we're also going to be drawing for the prizes. So if you give $250 or more, you're going to get a set of 4 Slate coasters with a Divine Mercy logo on them. You're also going to be entered into the drawing for one of these prizes: a Bose portable smart speaker donated by Dave and Janet Schmidt, owners of Dave's Auto Repair. A St. Padre Pio laser engraved image donated by Josh Schrader and Chase Berg. They are the owners of Cabinets by Phoenix and Hayes, and it's engraved by Jacob Schrader of Hayes. A handmade ladder rosary donated by Dora Leiker of Munger. A 50-pound beef package donated by Matthew and Stella Ziegelmeyer from Colby. A St. Francis prayer framed wall hanging donated by John and Kathy Shupman, owners of Katz Hallmark in Hayes. And a $100 gift certificate to Hickok Steakhouse in Hayes, donated by Oscar Runyon, Greg Whitehair, and Damon Hoare, who are the owners, and they fed us lunch all week long. Please support them. My family and I, we love the burgers and fries. They're so good there. But today I had the salmon with rice and a salad, and it was delicious. So thank you so very much, Hickox, for providing that for us. And if you are a $500 donor, you'll receive the coasters, the drawing. You'll get your name put in that, and you'll receive a 60-second spot for a loved one's birthday, celebrating a loved one's birthday, an anniversary, a baptism, a wedding, an anniversary of a death, a graduation, or anything you would like to celebrate. We can help you do that. If you're a $1,000 donor, you'll get the coasters. You will get a Divine Mercy Radio travel mug that will keep your drinks warm or cold. Plus, you will receive 2 tickets to the annual banquet, which will be held Saturday, September 13th in Hayes and Sunday, September 14th in Salina. Guest speaker is the host of Beacon of Truth, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and you will also get your name put in that same drawing. And that's coming up here, folks, in just 1 hour. You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Spring Care-a-thon. Pray, hope, and don't worry. I also want to mention that we do still have some books here. So yesterday we had a wonderful young lady who writes, and she wrote a Catholic fiction book. And she gave us 40 different copies of them. If you want to go back and listen to her interview, go onto YouTube. You can listen to that. Michael read the book, so he was able to come in and do the interview, but she signed the copies, brought them up here. I took one home so that my family and I can read it. So if you'd like to come visit us in this last hour, come get a cookie, come get a book, come see us, come give a donation, come on up and give us just give us a high five, say hi, wave through the window, whatever you want. Call into 785-621-4110 for your pledge. You're listening to 101.7 KJDM Lindsborg and Salina, 105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, 89.1 KGOH Colby, and 107.3 K297AI Hill City. We are getting ready for our next and final interview. So let us see if we have got Lucas on the line. Lucas, are you there, sir?
I am. How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing so good. So good. So good to be here.
Fantastic. So Lucas Roths is on the line with us. We're first going to get a trivia question, and then I'll introduce him, and we will hit the ground running. Get your phones ready. 16 years or under, 16 or under, phones ready. 785-621-4110. Here's your question. Who are our first parents? Is it A, Abraham and Sarah, B, Adam and Eve, C, Joseph and Mary. Who are our first parents? A, Abraham and Sarah. B, Adam and Eve. C, Joseph and Mary. 785-621-4110. Also, hand the phone to your parents after that and say, Mom, Dad, make a donation. 785-621-4110. Let's finish strong, folks. All right. Let's get to an interview with Lucas Roths. He's going to finish us out for our Care-a-thon. Lucas is a Ransom native. He's a 2020 graduate of Fort Hays State University with a BGS in General Studies with an emphasis in political science and business administration. Lucas worked for Divine Mercy Radio as an underwriting representative before moving to Dodge City to teach theology at Sacred Heart Cathedral Catholic School. Lucas was recently named the new director of campus ministry for the Como Catholic Campus Center in Hays, where he will begin this new chapter in his life in the upcoming school year. I know I got to see you already since then, Lucas, but congratulations again, man. It is a blessing to have you back in our community.
I appreciate it. I'm very blessed to get to come back to the community. I mean, Hays is, other than my hometown, the place I've spent the longest, and it's such a beautiful place, and so excited to be back at the campus center, especially.
Absolutely. If you can you give us a little bit of insight into how did this even come about?
Yeah. So, during homecoming and Oktoberfest, the campus center always hosts an alumni gathering, and they announced then that they were going to be having a new position. And I asked Father Andy about it after, and he kind of was describing it to me, and I was like, "Oh, that's something that would be interesting." And kind of talked about my time at the campus center, and he's like, that I think you could be good at that. And so he asked me to apply, and it was great. I mean, the application process was great, getting to talk to different people. And, since accepting the position, it's been great to get to meet people around the campus center. By this point, everybody that was there when I was there has been gone. And so just seeing how it's taking on the life that it has now has been so good to see.
All right. So thank you so much. I want to break in really quickly and congratulate Beth Staub, who won the trivia question. She's 8 years old. I'm also supposed to say sorry to Emma because they didn't realize that they had a winner already. And so that is on us. I will. I'll apologize for however that happened. We apologize, Emma. But Beth was our winner there with the question, who was our first parents? And that is Adam and Eve. But Emma, try again at 5:30. Keep listening because I will have that next question for you at 5:30. We're on talking with Lucas Roths in our last hour of our Spring Care-a-thon. Pray, hope, and don't worry. And we're looking to finally use up all of our matching funds. We got that infusion earlier. We want to make this sprint to the end and get it done. Call 785-621-4110, just like Linda Miller did. She just called in and donated $600 with our matching funds. That becomes $1,200. Call 785-621-4110, just like Linda, and help us out. Help us to continue to evangelize. If you listen to Father Fred this last hour, he said every year this happens, that someone's listening to Divine Mercy Radio, listening to Catholic radio, and they come back to the faith, or they come to the faith the first time. Help us to continue doing that. 785-621-4110. All right, Lucas. So could you give us a little bit of a background and help us to understand what does it look like to be the campus minister in a university setting?
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting as this being a new position and things of that nature. And, just kind of been talking with Father Andy and, with the application and stuff, what will it look like? And, I've been mulling over some of the things we've talked about and, really trying to tie it to like different charisms in the church. The way it looks like for me is some of it will be administration. Really at the end of the day, I'm going to be helping the student leaders fulfill their ministries and do the things that they've signed up to do. And so, yeah, a lot of it will be administration, helping them make sure they have the right things at the right time, helping keep the calendar of events in order and things of that nature. And it's a very exciting thing to get to have that because, when I was there at the campus center, we didn't have a lot of that kind of support. And so, as student leaders and things of that nature, we were just kind of running around trying to make sure everything was taken care of while being full-time students, while some of us were either athletes or had jobs or whatever it was. And so being able to have an administrative position to take care of some of those minor details, help with the logistics, I think that's a big deal. Other things is just like encouragement, helping them, as someone who has been through it and has done all of those types of things, helping them see when things go really well. Because sometimes I could remember, we would do an event or we'd do this or that, and we wouldn't even really have the ability to process it before we had class or we had this going on. And so it would be, I hope to bring to it a level of encouragement, just telling them like, hey, you did a really good job on that, or hey, we should look at this the next time we do something like this, or things of that nature. Like I've learned in my time, even just teaching middle schoolers, that a small amount of encouragement goes a really long way. And so wanting to be able to be an encouraging presence for our campus ministers, especially, or for the student leaders especially, will be something I look forward to. And just, I think, kind of a general overtone of mentorship, wanting, Father Andy, in kind of the application process, is like wanting to have some ability, someone who's dedicated to it, that can really mentor some of the student leaders and different people in the ministry as a whole, to just kind of like, be able to see in the future, see in the far future, and just, yeah, a lot of things of that nature, and getting to serve the students in those ways that, they might not have or might only get a little bit of. And so having another person that's kind of there to help guide them in whatever ways serves their ministry and serves the rest of the students there at Fort Hays.
Awesome. So are you going to be working with Focus missionaries at all on campus?
Yeah, so one of the parts of it will be working with both the student leaders and with the Focus missionaries, and making sure that, everybody's ministry, whatever specific role there might be with like the student leaders or what the Focus missionaries are doing, that it's all working together in a way that's, being of the most benefit, and that the Holy Spirit can work in the best possible way as a whole, in the whole, organization as a whole. So.
What a blessing that's going to be for those young folks down at the campus center. That sounds just absolutely wonderful that you're going to be able to do this and try to bring everybody together so that you guys can collaborate for the well-being and for the spiritual well-being of all these young men and women. You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio's Spring Care-a-thon. In our last hour, let's make one last big push. Call 785-621-4110, and we can try to meet the donations that we've had. Linda Miller donated $600 earlier. We had one of our board members who donated $500. That was Dan Loftus. We had Father Fred donated $500 and set out that challenge in the first place. If you can't meet that, whatever you can give, that would help us out greatly. And we ask that you would call into 785-621-4110. Let's get back to talking with Lucas Roths about leading with the faith. He is going to be the new director of campus ministry at Fort Hays Campus Center. So Lucas, what is your vision then for the spiritual life on campus, and how do you make that really come alive?
Yeah, this is something also been praying with a lot as part of the role in campus ministry, is like, what can we do as a whole? What can we do? What can Father Andy and I work on together with the student leaders to bring about like a rich culture of a spiritual life at the campus center? And some of the things that I really think was incredibly beneficial to me in my time there was the availability of the sacraments. Right, having daily mass available, having confession, the ability to go to reconciliation regularly, and other things that go along with that, with like Eucharistic adoration. I remember growing up and going to Catholic school, and we'd have time where we would spend in Eucharistic adoration as a school. And I didn't fully understand it as a kid, and I didn't really understand why we were doing it. And I understood Jesus is there in the Eucharist, but it wasn't until college and having the opportunity to have the holy hour, sometimes at 3 or 4 in the morning, that I really started to get to experience the joy that God has for me in his Eucharistic body in my time in adoration. And so wanting to, dive deep into the spiritual life sacramentally is something that I think is very important. The next would be scripturally. This is one of the beautiful things with having Focus missionaries is the Bible studies that they put on and that they help other students lead, I think is, contributing to the scriptural literacy of Catholics in general. And I think that's such a wonderful thing. Like the scriptures, every time you read them, have some level of depth, or even sometimes for me on a lot of basis, just a shallowness that I needed, that to dive into the scriptures and understand them better, to come to know God better, as St. Jerome told us, ignorance of scripture is ignorance of Christ. And so wanting to structure our spiritual life around the scriptures, whether it be through the Focus Bible studies, hopefully that, and something like sitting and understanding the homilies, and really sitting with the Sunday Mass reading, and whatever it might be, that we can dive deeper into that and dive deeper into, all the riches that the Lord has for us in the scriptures as well. And then I think just like with that culture, having an evangelical, spiritual life is so important, that when we experience these things, whether it be sacramentally, whether it be scripturally, that our immediate response is not to just hold on to them and not just like lord them over ourselves, like a dragon protects its gold. Like we want to show that joy out in an evangelical way and just make it to where everybody who can gets to experience the joy that the Lord has for them through hearing, testimonially about how it's affected you. Because I've always been a huge advocate of the idea that, the church's best evangelical tool, the way that the gospel spreads the best, is through the witness of the saints. I've known many people in my lifetime, Protestants, Catholics, that have fallen away, or things of that nature, that, sometimes there's a theological issue, sometimes there's, a disciplinary issue with the church, or something of that nature that causes some difficulty. But the one thing I've never heard anybody like get upset about or reject is the witness of somebody like Mother Teresa and the Missionaries of Charity, or of St. Francis of Assisi and the Franciscans. And like I want that to be something prevalent in the spiritual life on the campus, is that people could walk into the campus center or just have a class with somebody from the campus center, and there be some level of, you will know them by their fruit, and you'll see that, and they'll want to know what's going on with this person. Why are they not, a miserable college student like the rest of us, not getting enough sleep and probably over caffeinated? What's different with them? And I think the sacramental and scriptural side of the spiritual life helps then move into that evangelical part of our spiritual life.
Thank you so much for that, man. I want to break in to thank Marilyn Lawrence from Stratton, Nebraska. She donated $100 and says she is elated that she can hear it at the farm. That is awesome. I did not know that our radio waves can reach up into Nebraska. I knew that we got close, but to hear that we're getting up in that territory also, we're taking over Nebraska, folks. No, we just want Catholic radio everywhere. everywhere. So I don't care where it's at. We want it to cover everywhere, but to know that we're even reaching up into Nebraska is awesome. Thank you so much, Marilyn, for listening. That is so wonderful. And thank you for your donation. We really, really, really appreciate it. We're going to keep doing this, keep putting out quality programming. And thank you for partnering with us so that we can do that and so that we can help save souls. 785-621-4110. Call in like Marilyn did. She's from another state and calling in. 785-621-4110. Let's see if we can get one last big push to the end. 785-621-4110. You have about 40 minutes left. All right, we are speaking with Lucas Roths on serving as the director of campus ministry. So Lucas, it kind of seems a little bit like, the door's wide open for all kinds of things for you to be able to do. And is your job description going to kind of allow you then to also do events with people, to have different, maybe not scripture study, but whether it's hey, let's study some Aquinas, or things like that. What does it look like in involving any of that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm super interested in all that. I mean, obviously, coming from a teacher background, been teaching middle school for the last 4 years, and some of the different things that I've kind of developed. As a teacher, every teacher or former teacher knows the curriculum doesn't fit the entire year.
Yeah.
And so you have to fill the gaps. And right now, we're filling the gaps here at Sacred Heart in the middle school theology department, that's for sure. Things like with my 8th graders, we're currently reading The Great Divorce by C.S. Lewis.
Oh, wow.
And diving into the, different, with each chapter, there's something a little bit different, and the interactions and conversations that go on. And so that's beautiful. And I would love to be able to continue doing things like that. My 7th graders, we've been working hard getting ready for confirmation. So I don't make them read a book, but we watch The Lord of the Rings, and we stop in different points and I'll say, what was that? What just happened there? Okay, there's the Balrog, and there's, Gandalf saying what seems to be prayers. Then all of a sudden the Balrog falls down. What is that? And they're like, it's an exorcism. I'm like, good for you guys. I'm so glad you caught that one.
You and I could nerd out on that for a while.
Oh yeah. And then with my 6th graders, we read different selections from the Screw Tape Letters, and ones that I think are, age appropriate for them, and different stuff like that. And so, yeah, I would love to continue doing some of those types of things. And again, yeah, with, studying the church fathers and people like St. Thomas Aquinas. And I think a lot of that for me in my role, and what I hope is in that kind of mentorship part, is that I would hope that a student would feel comfortable coming to me if they're taking a philosophy class or something of that nature, and being willing to ask me about it, like asking about, Immanuel Kant or Friedrich Nietzsche and all these types of guys that I studied, especially in the political science department. Is like, how do we see that? Like, how do we as Catholics see that and their worldviews? And I mean, sometimes it can be pretty obvious, like it's wrong, but how? Because my professor is so energetic and enthusiastic about this guy, and all I know is like probably not in line with the Catholic worldview. But how? And so some probably more informal on some of those types of things. But yeah, I mean, like, yes, the scripture obviously takes its pride of place for study of theology. And then obviously the tradition of the church goes hand in hand with that, because the tradition comes from the scriptures, and the scripture is a tradition of the church. And so, but then, yeah, getting into what a lot of people would call like the lower branches of theology and things like philosophy and natural philosophy and things of that. I hope that part of this position would be some of those types of things, really diving into a level of intellectual formation as well as the others. So
fantastic. So how would you then Since it is different, there may be opportunities that we can't even think about. I'm sure there will be, but how do you integrate then faith development with the academic and personal growth within these students?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think this is a great point because I think one thing that I personally have learned, and this goes with my, very, very short stint in seminary, is like there's different levels of formation that we as people have to go through. And it was really at St. John Vianney there in Denver, they were very big on the understandings of the different formations. And so there's like human formation. So, like that idea of personal growth, right? Like, what does it mean to be just like a healthy person, right? Whether it be physically healthy, mentally healthy, things of that nature. And I think it's really important sometimes when we skip the human formation for the spiritual formation actually gets kind of can be more difficult, or can in some ways, when we have wounds that we have that haven't been dealt with properly in a human formation way through therapy and counseling and things of that nature, it can mess up our spiritual formation. Because if we have wounds from a father figure or something like that, seeing God as father spiritually is very, very difficult. So really trying to hone in on those human formation aspects, and even in the simplest of things like eating right and exercising, but also some in that idea of like, do we need to have like a good honest conversation about things that we're struggling with in the human formation. And then obviously the spiritual formation comes from that. Like it blossoms out of having a healthy human formation. And then of course the intellectual formation. I think for me, I wish I would have had a dude that just like was telling me, go to class and take it seriously. I don't care if it's listening to music, take it seriously. Because I took the class listening to music as a senior, which I was probably the only senior in there. It was mostly freshmen trying to get their gen eds out of the way. And I finally, at that point in my college career, had said, I'm going to take every one of my classes serious, as though God is wanting to reveal something beautiful and important and true to me. And my last year of school was so much better because of that, minus losing half a semester to COVID. But like everything else was just so much better. I actually like woke up with an excitement to go to intro to literature class and things of that nature. And so having just the fact that they're in school, the students are in school and they are being given intellectual formation, whether it be in a general studies way or in their gen ed classes or in their specific, to what their degree is, like taking that seriously. And then, coming to the campus center as a place to understand it better and to learn the Catholic side of things and the Catholic worldview of things. And then all of that put together then stems out the idea of vocational formation. In seminary, it's specifically pastoral formation. But like for students who are discerning what it is that they might be called to, what God is calling them to, whatever vocational discernment it is, whether it's marriage or the priesthood or the religious life, like having those first three levels of formation down then cultivates the potential for any one of these vocations that they might have. And I think that's a very important thing for us to understand and then to work toward, so that, like for me, it wasn't until some of these things really started clicking, where the human formation, the intellectual formation was leading to a richer spiritual formation, that I could finally, without hesitation, accept an invitation to seminary, like to be invited by the vocations director here in Dodge to go. And I was like, I think I'm finally ready. And like, that's what I want for the students, especially. It's like, you feel called to marriage. Like, I want you to really feel called to marriage. Don't allow that, it's, as it happens in our culture, that kind of be the default. It's like you either get married or you live alone. And it's like, but there's other beautiful things, very beautiful things. And it's okay to not have it all figured out right when you graduate. I sure as heck didn't. But also, like, it's these other underlying formations that you can continue to better yourself in through the help of the grace of God that will lead to a very beautiful vocation, whatever it might be. So I think that's the main way the spiritual formation and human formation, intellectual formation, those all lead us to a better an understanding of our vocation.
You're listening to Divine Mercy Radio Spring Care-a-thon, and our final 30 minutes. Pray, hope, and don't worry is our Care-a-thon theme. Praying for anybody that is out there listening that can help us to get to the finish line. We are definitely at the last 150 meters of this race, and we need to kick it in. We need to sprint to the end. And that's a perfect analogy because Lucas used to run a lot also. And so I've seen him make a pretty good finish before. So please join with us, partner with us, and make that donation, 785-621-4110. And we're going to get to another question also here in a little bit. So please have the 16-year-old and younger listening, have everybody listening, but they're the only ones that can call in here in a little bit. We are speaking with Lucas Roths, talking about serving as the director of campus ministry. So Lucas, earlier you had kind of mentioned, you're going to be dealing with obviously people who are from all walks of life. And some people, if they have a father wound, it's going to be hard for them to understand God as Father. And I'm so glad that you kind of brought that up, because when hopefully, these students, they do get comfortable with like, hey, you know what? I really need someone to talk to. I got to go see Lucas. What is the approach, for helping students who are experiencing crisis, grief, doubt, whether that's in their faith life, their home life, their school life? I mean, that's going to be kind of the beautiful thing about it, is you're going to be able to help them in all kinds of situations, but also, that's going to be a tough thing. So how do you do that?
Yeah, it's something that I've definitely learned in teaching, right? Is like you will have students that if they feel comfortable with you, they're going to want to talk about different things that are happening in their life, and some of the things, you're able to help them with, some of the things they need different help with. And it's good that they're willing to, you know, put themselves out there in a way, and expressing crisis or grief or doubt or whatever it might be. And I've definitely learned my strengths and weaknesses in on this front with middle schoolers. I am what you would call a very non-neurotic person, meaning I don't experience negative emotion the way a lot of people do. I don't experience depressive thoughts or depressive feelings as often as, or in like what you might say in a normal way, or anxiety and things like that. So I first have to recognize in myself that somebody is experiencing these things in a way that I might not be able to really be, like, in a way, compassionate towards, because I can't enter into their suffering with them. I don't experience it the same way they do. And that, with middle schoolers, is sometimes difficult because the younger we are, the more tendency we have to struggle with negative emotions. And so I've learned that there's definitely ways to handle it. And one thing I've definitely learned is, especially, like, I've had, you know, seventh, eighth grade girls that have had things go on, or, even as silly as, to me, I guess silly, not to her. It was very important to her, but she is a farm kid and she had a bucket calf that passed away, and she was very distraught about it. And I didn't know how to handle that. My oldest brother runs like the family farm. I grew up around my grandfather on the farm and things of that nature. And, like, to me, that those things happen. But, like, not a lot of tears were shed on the J Bar R ranch about that kind of thing. And so I had to be able to sit there with her and try and comfort her in whatever way I could. But at the end of the day, I also recognize that with the tendency I have, is that I sometimes can be very beneficial to somebody who wants to talk about something, but then also wants help seeing it clearly. Because with not having as much of an experience with negative emotion, I do have sometimes, again, through the grace of God, the ability to kind of see things in a very analytic way. And so if they need help making a decision and they're very emotionally attached to it, sometimes I've seen this with students, is I can help them kind of see the next steps that their sadness or whatever is not allowing them to see. And so, and one thing that always comforts me, one of my favorite scripture verses, um, just in general from St. Paul's letter to the Romans, is we know that all things work for good for those who love God and who are called according to his purpose. And so, although in the moment you might just need to hear, like an ear to hear, you might just need somebody to be there as you process it out loud. The response always is that recognition that we can have hope in the promises that God has given to us, and that this crisis, this grief, or this doubt, especially with doubt, it's important to remember, like Saint Therese of Lisieux, if you read her autobiography, she struggled with doubt, especially when she got sick towards the end of her life. And there were stints in her diaries where it was like, considering whether or not any of all of the faith that she has grown up with was all for naught. And, like recognizing that a saint is not someone who doesn't experience doubt. A saint is not someone who doesn't experience crisis or grief or anything like that nature, but it's the one that truly does put their trust in the Lord and loves him and recognizes that, even if it's 40 years in the desert, only eating bread that comes from the heavens, it's like God's taking care of us, and he loves us, and he wants everything he can have for us. So that would be, my approach, generally speaking. And obviously with anything counseling wise, it's person to person. It's getting to come to know the person and understand how you can love them best in that counseling experience. So,
well, you are wise beyond your years if you can already understand yourself so that you can help others. That's going to be a blessing for those young people. We are on talking with Lucas Roths about serving as director of campus ministry. You were listening to Divine Mercy Radio's last few minutes of our spring Care-a-thon. Pray, hope, and don't worry. I want to thank Judy Donnelly from Burr Oak, who donated $100, and Jim and Ann Brule, who donated $250, and say hi to Lester and Danetta. So thank you, Judy. Thank you, Jim and Ann. Please join with them in these last 20 minutes, and let's make that last final sprint. 785-621-4110. That's 785-621-4110. I also want to read the 5:30 question. I know everybody has been waiting for this. Remember, it's 16 years of age or under. This is the very last question of the spring Care-a-thon for 2025. So get your phones ready. Get ready to dial in. And here we go. Of the 10 commandments, which comes first? Is it A, honor thy mother and thy father? B, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor? C, thou shalt not commit adultery? Or D, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have false gods before me? Which one of these comes first? A, honor thy mother and thy father. B, thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. C, thou shalt not commit adultery. Or D, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have false gods before me. 785-621-4110. And that is for 16-year-olds or under. And then hand the phone to mom and dad so mom and dad can make a nice donation. All right, here we go. Back to talking with Lucas Roths. So, Lucas, you really teased at something that I want to ask here because it is very important with what you are talking about. You can't help people through their crisis if they don't know you. And so how do you then plan to make yourself, approachable, available? How do you make that atmosphere so they do know, hey, this is somebody I can trust and somebody I can go to?
Yeah, that's something that I've been thinking about a lot, is like my availability. Like, I think in the church, there is something to be said about the ministry of availability, right? Like, we are all very busy people in a lot of very different ways. And whether through marriage and children, and or like the priest and all of their responsibilities, but like just having the ability for those who have that, like me being, single and being in this position, is like that ministry of availability to just be around, be in a place that people can come to. And one thing that really sticks with me, especially about that the approachable part, I think a lot of that comes from what Pope Francis said when he was writing to priests and to pastors. And he said, like, you want to be approachable, you got to smell like the sheep. Like, you have to be there. You have to be where they are. You have to go where they're experiencing life. And you can't just, as I think he said in the document, that it was just like in the confessional or in the sacristy or in the rectory. Like that should be, those places should be there when they need to be there, when you're hearing confession, when you're getting ready to say mass, and when you're getting ready to go to bed, or praying and those types of things. But otherwise, you need to be around the people. And so my hope in, hoping to garner trust with the students and things is like, one, my office will be there at the campus center, but not allowing myself to get overwhelmed or overdone, or my perfectionist tendencies to want to make everything exactly perfect with whatever thing I might be working on, and giving myself the ability to go out and be available to people, and like going out and talking with people who might just be passing in between classes, or on their way to class, or after class, and just be around to the point where they can come to know me, I can come to know them. And like I said, you really can't love someone properly without knowing them, and you can't really come to know them if you're not around them and available to them. And so I think just some of those, like really trying to be there. And although I'm not a college student, I sort of am a college student in the sense that I'm taking classes to work towards a master's. And yeah, just kind of, I'm not old, but I'm old enough to know I'm not college aged anymore. And so there's some things that it just like, no, you guys go do that one. I think I'll stay back. I don't need to be up till 2 having a conversation about this, or going out for, to dance or something like that till 1 or 2 in the morning. My body doesn't like that, especially getting on a teacher schedule where it's, early to bed, early to rise. But nonetheless, like throughout the day, and especially during the times where like most of the students will be there, is just being there and being available, and striking up conversations or whatever it might be. And I'm lucky to know already some people who are currently there through, them coming back and being missionaries here in the Dodge City Diocese for things like Totus Tuus and Prayer in Action. And so like being able to really like galvanize those relationships and things of that nature will be really great. Like, I'm very excited for that.
That is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for what you're going to be doing. I want to congratulate somebody here. So I think there was a mix-up. I'm going to try to separate this out in all these messages that I have here. So I think it is Bridget Staub that won this trivia question earlier when we announced that it was Beth Staub at the 5 o'clock. It was not Beth, it was Seth. So Seth Staub won earlier at the 5 o'clock. Bridget Staub wins now at 5:30. So I think brother and sister there. That is awesome. Staubs, thanks for listening. That's wonderful. The question was, of the 10 commandments, which comes first? I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt not have false gods before me. So very good. Thank you for listening. Please call in these last 15 minutes, 785-621-4110. And please help us to continue evangelizing, 785-621-4110, to make a pledge in these last few minutes of our drive. We're on talking with Lucas Roths, who's going to be the new campus minister down at the Como Catholic Campus Center here in Hayes. So, Lucas, we're going to get back to what you're going to be doing then as that campus minister. You know, I was blessed here to, my days run together, but one of the days this week, I got to interview a couple of the young ladies from down at the campus center who took a mission trip over spring break. Is that going to be part of your ministry also? You know, are you going to do mission trips, service trips, hold retreats? What does that part of your job description look like?
Yeah, so with a lot of those, especially retreats, with a lot of the service trips, most of those go through Focus, which I mean, the Focus mission trips are awesome. The places they get to go, the people they get to encounter, it sounds awesome. I wish I would have done one when I was in college. We didn't have Focus at Fort Hays until my senior year. And so by the time spring break rolled around, when they would be doing those mission trips, like we were getting shut down with COVID. And so that was unfortunate. But yeah, with the service trips specifically, that's I obviously the encouragement aspect, encouraging kids to go on those and seeing those types of things. I know I will definitely be encouraging students to go on mission in different ways, whether it be with the Salina Diocese, Dodge Diocese, Wichita Diocese, doing things like Prayer in Action and Totus Tuus. I think those things are so wonderful and have been a huge part of my faith journey. I did both a summer of Totus Tuus and a summer of Prayer in Action on the teams for the Dodge Diocese, and like I loved every bit of that. And so this part of that evangelical part of the spiritual life is going out on mission, and whether that be your full vocation, right, as someone like a Franciscan or a Jesuit or something of that nature, missionaries of charity, you know, sisters of life, or if it's just like we all should experience it in some way. You know, we can't know if that's our vocation or if our in some way a charism of ours is a service of sorts until we've tried it and we've come to know it. And so I think those are very important. On the retreat side, you know, things like our student leadership retreat that they do before every summer. I know Father Andy and I have talked about that'll be something that I'm very much involved in and kind of taking the lead on, but also things like the Crossroads retreat. I'm sure I will be there for encouragement. It's student ran, and I really do believe it should always be that way because it's the students that know the students, and I think that's very important to that, especially that retreat. I that's really where the ignition for my time at Fort Hays came through doing the Crossroads retreat, and I have to give Deacon Cade and Deacon Adam and Ro Hinkle all the credit for that. They were ones that were on the team that year, and I was kind of a straggler showing up maybe every other week to Catholic disciples and things, and they were the ones that were really like, dude, you gotta go on this. And I can't thank them enough for borderline forcing me to go, and I'm totally fine with that because it was such a pivotal thing. And so I mean, with retreats in general and service trips, that's part of the Christian life. We see that even in scripture with Jesus. I mean, he went on mission to different parts of the Holy Land, and then also like he spent time in retreat. Like he retreated from the masses. He went to the mountains to pray. He went into the desert and prayed. And the times of that solitary moment is so important because it's when we finally get into a level of like solitude with us and God that we can experience the love and consolation that he has for us in a way that, monotony, our monotonous life, our day-to-day taking classes, going home, doing homework, going to work, we can miss out on that experience or just be bogged down with monotony. I know I can from looking ahead for the next 2 weeks of school that we have left, there is a lot of things that have to get done. There's a lot of events that are going to happen, all of which are very beautiful and great and awesome for our students. But it also leaves not a lot of time for prayer, to attending to prayer in the way that I would prefer, in the way that I can do in a normal even time period of the school year. And so having those experiences where you can retreat away, come to a beautiful, like, experience with God, receive his consolation, receive his love. I think those are so important, especially in that college age where you're making major life decisions. You're deciding on, your vocations, and even like your small v vocations, in the sense of like your occupation and things of that nature, where you need that time alone with the Lord so that he can help guide you, so that you can lay it to him, lay it at his feet, and he can help, and he can be there for you, and help you through peace, through an experience of peace, know which direction you're supposed to go.
Well said, young man. Hey, yeah, then maybe in these last 5 minutes that we have here, can you maybe talk a little bit about how has your own faith journey formed the way that you're going to take on this ministry?
Yeah, I mean, for me, in this position, especially in working in campus ministry, I mean, it's hard to not recognize that where my faith really came to that sprouting point. It began in my early life living in the Catholic family that I have, and sitting next to Grandpa every Sunday at Mass. That was something I wouldn't miss, even when I went to prom and we didn't get home till 3:30 after prom and all that fun stuff. I made sure that I was sitting next to Grandpa at 8 a.m. Mass the next morning. It starts there, and then going to Catholic school, I was very blessed to get to go first through eighth grade at Sacred Heart in Ness City, where my mom still teaches. And it's such a beautiful time there, especially with, we had Father Henry Hildebrandt, who he passed away my senior year, but having him, and especially for altar serving, I think my appreciation and love of the Mass began there, because his server training was meticulous. I mean, it was like, it was drill camp. I mean, and we had to pass a test, and the test was writing down every object that is used at some point in the Mass throughout the year, and we had to say what it was and say what it's used for, and that made there be a level of importance to it, and that got me interested. And being in a small parish community where there aren't, right now there's a lot of children at St. Aloysius there in Ransom, which is beautiful. But growing up, I was serving Mass by myself, you know, 2, maybe sometimes 3 times a month for Sunday, and I fell in love with doing that because of Father Henry and his example, and his care and, love for the liturgy. But then, also just at the school. But then, go into high school, and then coming into college, that's where all of that stuff really got to sprout. And I was so blessed and lucky. As you said, my main concern when I was graduating high school and where I was going to go to college was who was going to give me a scholarship to run. And so for a good while of that, it was mostly junior colleges. I had offers from different junior colleges in the state, and it wasn't until state cross country my senior year that Coach McCullough there at Fort Hays approached me about coming and visiting, and he offered me a scholarship. And I mean, I only did end up getting to run there for not a whole lot of time before injuries kind of sidelined me and stuff. But, it was obviously the providence of God that all happened. And he knew that my only concern about where I was going to college was running, even though he knew that it would only be short lived, that he ended up getting me to Fort Hays, and getting to experience everything I experienced at the campus center. And I mean, that's I think why I'm so excited about this position. I was so excited even just with the announcement that it was going to be a thing, but then also with me being able to take it on is like, one thing that models my teaching is, what are the things that I would have liked to have learned when I was in Catholic school as a middle schooler? And so I think I'm going to take a pretty similar approach to, campus ministry. Is like, what would I have liked to have had when I was there that we just didn't have, because we didn't have the resources or whatever it might have been, that that the campus center is very blessed to have now. And like, what would I have wanted somebody to tell me, or how would I have wanted somebody to assist me and encourage me in the things that I was doing? And so all of those types of things, the experience there in college, my time in my very short amount of time in seminary, my time teaching down here has really helped me understand, a lot of really beautiful things that have allowed me, hope allows me, through the grace of God to be a good campus minister and to help bring more souls to Christ, either for the first time or, even deeper and more joyously in love with him. So,
Lucas, it has been a blessing having you on here, sir. Is there anything that you want to leave us with here today?
Well, one, when I got on and I was watching earlier and then saw that Father Fred was before me, that made me extremely nervous. To follow Father Fred, like that's tough. That's tough. I wish I'd have known that before I signed up for this hour. But no, I'm extremely blessed in my opportunities. I'm so glad for this radio station. As you said, I got to work there for 6 months, fresh out of seminary, and got to experience the world of Catholic radio. And I think it's such a beautiful and wonderful thing. I'm so glad that people are donating and that the lights get to stay on and the waves get to get sent out, because like Father Fred was saying, it seems like it's like when you think Catholic radio, you think it is it really doing something? And then it's like, yeah, it's absolutely doing something, and it's so beautiful. And my time there and listening to all the EWTN, shows, and Dr. David Anders, especially, Catholic Answers, have been so formative in my understanding of catechesis and all of the beautiful things that our faith has to offer. So blessed and humbled that I got to be on here again. And I love Divine Mercy Radio. So excited.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much, Lucas. And please keep praying for us. I'll be praying for your new ministry, and that God blesses all those young people that in their lives that you can be with.
Yes. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Have a wonderful day, sir.
Will do. You too.
Bye. All right. We just got done talking with Lucas Roths. He's going to be that new campus director at Fort Hays State Como Catholic Campus Center. Before we get to our drawings, I want to thank our board of directors. So Lester Robin is our president. Alvin LeCount is our vice president. Dan Loftus is our treasurer. Danetta Robin is our secretary, and Father Fred Gatchett, who was just in here a little bit ago, is our spiritual director. Our board members then are Christian Lutz, Allison Ochoa, Corey Munch, Troy Shippers, Cody Marinser, and Karen Marcel. Want to thank the board of directors for all that they do to make sure that we are staying on track and that we're doing the best we can with everybody's donations. All right, we're getting ready then to draw some prizes here as soon as I can get Nathan in the room, I think. Is that right, Michael?
Yes, sir.
We're waiting on Nathan.
Yep, just waiting on Nathan.
Okay. Well, then while we are waiting on Nathan, I will try to see if maybe we can get a total in here too. We'll see what it is that we are at. But here's what we're going to be drawing for. So we're going to be drawing for a Bose portable smart speaker. That's donated by Dave and Janet Schmidt, who are owners of Dave's Auto Repair. We're going to be drawing for a St. Padre Pio laser engraved image donated by Josh Schrader and Chase Berg. They are the owners of Cabinets by Phoenix in Hays here, and it was engraved by Jacob Schrader, who works for them and is in Hays. We're going to be drawing for a handmade ladder rosary donated by Dora Liker of Munger. And these things are beautiful. I use mine every single day when we say our rosary as a family at home. I've got a bunch of rosaries, but that's the one that I always use at home. In fact, my kids even know when they're handing out the rosaries, when we're sitting down to say it, Dad gets his special one. I mean, everybody kind of has theirs, but everybody knows that one's Dad's. I've been using it for years, and it's still as beautiful as the day I got it. They hold together so well. They are so wonderful. We're also going to be drawing for a 50-pound beef package donated by Matthew and Stella Ziegelmeyer from Colby. We're going to be drawing for a St. Francis prayer framed wall hanging donated by John and Kathy Schupman, owners of Katz Hallmark in Hays. we're also going to be drawing for a $100 gift certificate to Hickok Steakhouse in Hayes, donated by Oscar Runyon, Greg Whitehair, and Damon Hoare, the owners. And I did just get an update. We have the total for the week is $92,040. So we are so blessed by everything that you guys brought in. We've been praying, we've been hoping, and we've been trying to not worry that you guys would take care of us, and you have. So thank you very much for showing up and really giving us everything we need. All right, here we go. What is the first thing we're drawing for?
We're going to go ahead and do our trivia drawing first and get that out of the way.
All right, so our trivia winner for today. Let me turn my head and see if I just got one. Did I just get one? Yep, here we go. Bridget Staub. Bridget Staub is our winner. So congratulations, Bridget. You will get that $50 gift certificate to Messenger Traditional Catholic Books and Gifts. All right, next one. Are we just going down the line?
Let's go down the list.
All right, drawing for the Bose Portable Smart Speaker. I think Michael's making as much noise as he can on purpose. Do I just have one?
Yes.
Okay, I have one. And it is Lorraine Brungart. Lorraine Brungart wins our Bose Portable Smart Speaker. All right, now we're going to go on. What's that?
Donated by who?
Oh, yes, sorry. That was donated by Dave and Janet Schmidt, owners of Dave's Auto Repair. We're now going to draw for the St. Padre Pio laser engraved image donated by Josh Schrader, Chase Berg, who are the owners of Cabinets by Phoenix, and engraved by Jacob Schrader of Hayes. We're going to let Nathan actually pull this one. How about, huh? Nathan's putting it out there online so they can see it. All right. Pull a name. Pull a name. Come on, let's go. I'm a very patient person. It looks like it is Dan and D. Coster. Dan and D. Coster win the St. Padre Pio laser engraved image. Next one is our handmade ladder rosary donated by Dora Liker of Munger. And I think Michael has this one.
I'll let you read this one.
Okay. Hey, all right. Gene and Teresa Flax. Those are my in-laws, some of the best in-laws in the world. Gene and Teresa win the handmade ladder rosary donated by Dora Liker. Now for the 50-pound beef packet. Throw my big paw in there. Do we just have one? We do. We'll turn it around. Oh, and this is donated by Matthew and Stella Ziegelmeyer from Bishop Gerald Vinky. Woo! All right, Bishop Vinky gets the 50-pound beef package. Now we're going to do the St. Francis prayer framed wall hanging. I haven't even seen this yet. Oh, nice. Those are some good colors. That'll go great in anybody's home.
For those of us on the radio, it is green with a beautiful brown wood frame.
All right. And this is donated by John and Kathy Shupman, owners of Cat Hallmark. All right. Someone's going to pull it out. Here we go. Michael's got it. And Stacy Moore. Stacy Moore wins the St. Francis prayer framed wall hanging. I think we might know her. Stacy Moore wins the framed hanging. Now to our last prize, a $100 gift certificate to the place that feeds us all week. Make sure our bellies are full. Hickok Steakhouse here in Hayes. Support them whether you win or not. Donated by Oscar Runyon, Greg Whitehair, and Damon Hoare. They are the owners. And the winner is Rhonda Ward. Rhonda wins the $100 gift certificate to Hickok Steakhouse. Nathan, did you want to say anything before we close?
Huge thank you to everybody listening. We could not have done this without you. We cannot bring this Catholic programming without you. We try to stay true, authentic, and just bring you the truth every day. Please pray for the conclave coming up. Please pray for everybody who donated. Please pray for everybody who volunteered. And we just need that first and foremost. Thank you for all your donations, but prayer is what keeps this place going. So thank you to everybody who helped out and contributed.
Absolutely. Thank you for such a wonderful, wonderful Care-a-thon. You guys have blessed us. You're listening to 101.7 KJDM Lindsborg and Salina, 105.7 KMDG Hayes, 88.1 KRTT Great Bend, 88.1 KVDM Hayes, 89.1 KGOH Colby, and 107.3 K297 AI Hill City.